Hi again, guys. We are ready for the next session of the Hamburg Mobile Summit Live. And we are having Omer as our next speaker from Playstudios right here in the virtual studio on WN Hub. Hi, Omer. Yeah, could you please unmute yourself? Push the button.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, we can hear you and see you well now.
How are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good.
All right. So I yield the stage for now and passing my words to you. Good luck with your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
So hi everyone, I'm Omer. I'm the social marketing lead of Playstudios in the past year and a half. And today I'm going to cover Playstudios' retargeting journey and specifically how we established in 2019 from zero retargeting activity, 6 digits monthly budget retargeting activity for our top title pop slots. So before we go ahead, I'll start with a bit about Playstudios. So we are a gaming development company. We develop casual games and social casino games that allows you to earn real world rewards every time you play by collecting loyalty points in our games while playing and redeem them in real life in places like Las Vegas with our partners MGM. So before starting with our retargeting activity, I wanted to cover first what is retargeting, because this term says a lot of different things to different people, and some of you may not be familiar with this term. So the most simplified definition of retargeting is that retargeting is a form of targeted advertising, by which is targeting online ads to customers based on their previous actions. It means, in contrary to traditional marketing or user acquisition, that you are spreading your ads across your target audience and want to get as many as new customers as possible. Here in retargeting, you use the data that you already have on existing and past players in order to base your targeting better on them. And how does it look in this concept? So you have a user that goes into your website or into your game, then he is leaving at some point, and then we are presenting to this user a retargeting ad to get him back into the website or the game and to hopefully complete action or some actions that we wanted him to complete. And we know in the gaming industry that we are a bit late adopters of retargeting comparing to other verticals such as e-commerce and travel and insurance, which retargeting is a very common practice in those verticals. This is, by the way, from an AppsFlyer report from end of 2019 that shows that gaming is on much lower adoption of retargeting. And when we wanted to start retargeting, we thought, why is gaming so late adopter of retargeting? And we looked at the funnel and thought ourselves, so for other verticals, like let's say a flight booking website, the user is going through a much longer funnel that it can be falling down the funnel, and then eventually when it's ended with user acquisition, so the business makes its revenue. So it's worth for this business to get the users back into the funnel and eventually complete the purchase and becoming a paying customers. With free-to-play games like ours, it's quite different funnel, because the user acquisition funnel, it's very instant and immediate, and the users needs to download a free game that they are not committed to, and the monetization comes after that. And this is the only point when we can actually start to do retargeting. So we are pretty much counting on the product to do so. So that matters. So why do we still think we should do retargeting? So I'm taking this this metaphor, which I'm not sure most most of you will like it, but this is a good metaphor to explain it. We're living in a Tinder world or a Tinder ecosystem in the gaming ecosystem and the app ecosystem. Means just in Google Play, you have right now more than 3 million apps, and every quarter there are more 100K new apps every quarter. So for the user standpoint, this word is really overwhelming. And even if we're convinced a potential player to come and play our game and he likes our game, he keeps seeing other user acquisition ads of other prettier, more attractive games that looks just like us. And this is why we need to be engaged and keep engaged with the users where they are seeing our competitors and when they have the attraction for another game. So I know it's not maybe not the most nicest metaphor, but it's explained pretty well why we think we should do it. So our motivation to retargeting is that we know we have valuable players that plays pop slot, but they won't play pop slots forever. At some point, unfortunately, they will leave us. This is how things are in the gaming business. And we want to retarget those valuable players that left the game and convince them to return and play and hopefully monetize in the game again. The question everyone needs to ask himself if he wants to build this kind of retargeting activity and go with the same motivation is the definitions of those words. Like, what is a valuable player to you? What you consider as left us? What you consider as a returning player? How should we treat returning player? And how do we know that those players won't return without a treatment? So this is the first question that we wanted to answer when we did the prior research. We just wanted to see what is the actual probability for a player to return to the game if it wasn't active or she wasn't active for a couple of days, how it's differentiate between monetizers and non-monetizers and between different kind of monetizers. And based on that, drawing this chart on the right of curves of probability, try to find the sweet spot where this is the optimal time to retarget those users. Because if, for example, we have on the left side point in time where it's too early to retarget this player because the probability they will come back alone organically is very high, so it will be a waste of money, sorry. And too late means that they might be already playing in another game and they are retargeting him and keeping him in or her in the game. So there is a sweet spot in the middle that we wanted to find, and every game based on its economy and based on its probabilities need to find this sweet spot. So we went up to this activity while setting the goals, retarget lapsed players and bring as many of them back to life, like Jon Snow got back to life in Game of Thrones season 5 or 6. And the secondary goal of this was to collaborate with our CRM and product teams to communicate with our players the latest features of our game and the latest releases of our games. So with that, we set sail and we started retargeting on Facebook, and we used the Facebook SDK. Some of you may know it as Facebook Pixel to segment those users and create audiences and run retargeting campaigns to them. And pretty early on, while after we started this activity, we reached around 90% of the scale we thought to be in the end of the year, somewhere in mid Q3. And we saw a pretty good success in this activity and a very fast return on ad investment from these ads. But we had some hard time to scale up this activity. And the main reason for that was the use of Facebook SDK, because the Facebook SDK is a great tool that you must have on your app or your game. But it's very intuitive, but it's quite limited. First of all, the tracking in Facebook SDK is only limited to the past 180 days. So if you are like Pop Slots, a 3-year-old game, So you can't retarget using Facebook SDK the players that haven't been logged in to the game for the past 6 months or a year or 2 years or so. So this is one. The second one is when we started with doing that, we saw that the players that are returning from the audiences are not fully compatible with what we really want to achieve, and the data that we see on our database and that we trust is not pretty much what we wanted to achieve through retargeting. So this was the point that we thought, wow, we must connect our own data to where we are engaging with the users. So we have connected to Facebook Marketing API, which is a tool that needs to integrate with directly from your data to Facebook audience. And it took us to LIGHTSPEED, because when we did that, we managed to increase our daily scale in 5 times. And we managed to get to the end of the year in a monthly scale that crossed our thought to be goal by 400%. And instead of returning just dozens of players every day, we went up to 1,000 players every day returning to our game. And lastly, we had a tool to do better segmentation and split the audiences better and tailor our creatives and offers to the users or to the players better, which is our key approach, because we think that every player has some reason, some value that he had in our game when he installed it, and he lost that value when he stopped playing it again. So we need to somehow give the value back. So for each player, we need to find, and for each segment, we need to find this incentive or this offer that will attract him or her to return to the game. It can be incentivizing them with more app currency, or present them the latest avatar closet that we've launched, or present to them the cruise raffle that we have done on the game. About measurement, because obviously we need to measure the success of all of that. So before we jump into some ways to measure retargeting, we need to start with the definition of attribution and reattribution. So if you're not familiar with the term attribution, so it's when you have a player that saw a couple of ads and then installed the game or the app of yours, and then you need to think about how I attribute or how I allocate the revenue that this user generate between the ads. Some do it on the last ad, some do it on the first ad. Every business does it on its own. And it becomes more complex when we're talking about reattribution and retargeting, because things are happening after the install. Like a player starts to play, then we said it will leave eventually at some point. It might be monetizing in a game before it leaves eventually. And in that point, we will serve him a retargeting ad to return him to play or in the game, or if you uninstall the game, so to reinstall the game. And then we need to allocate and attribute the revenue after we serve them retargeting ad with what happened before he initially installed the game, and take into account all what we're doing in CRM, push notifications, emails, social media, and the product releases. So it's pretty much complex, and every business, every game, every app needs to design its own attribution model on how it wants to how the business wants to allocate the revenue per these activities. So going through some measurement methods, we will start with the one that we're not recommending you to do, is that we just know it works approach. To explain that, let's take some math. We have user acquisition high funnel campaigns that spent $100 and got $10 in revenue. On the low funnel, we have retargeting ad that spent $10 and had $100 in revenue. Together, it's 110 in cost and revenue. It's an ROI It's an ROI of 100%, and it's a great success. Well, this is not a good way to measure retargeting. It's not how we recommend you to do that. There are much more sophisticated or smarter approaches to do that. One of them is to do the same, but weigh the probabilities. For example, if we had this retargeting ad that had cost us $10 and got $100 in revenue, So you remember the curve I showed earlier. So if I'm taking, for example, a player that had 90% chance or probability to return, so it had a probability of 10% to not return by himself to the game. So we weight that into $10, 10% from the $100 of the revenue, and this is how you get 100% ROI specifically on the ads. You can also calculate the cost per action you want to achieve, whether it is the return itself of the player or paying player, whether it is how much time, how many times the user was active after we did retargeting, or whether it's every purchase he made after going back to the game, or every ad he watched after returning to the game. Lastly, we have lift test. You might be familiar with that as well. It's when you take this audience, split it into for one group, the control group, you don't present or serve retargeting ads. For the other group, the test group, you do present retargeting ads, and then you want to see how retargeting creates a lift in revenue over time. It's very nice in the mockup, and I guarantee to you that when you'll do it, and I very much recommend you to do it, you will find it's not easy as it sounds, because you have many other things that affects your users, like we said, like a CRM effort, like social media, like product releases, like your own user acquisition campaigns that attracts the user back. So it's pretty interesting for you to try it, and I pretty much recommend doing that. So as I presented, there are many challenges along the way. I think the first one is to create a synchronized user experience. Because when a player sees an ad that offers him to return and get more app currency in the game, then he clicks on the ad and gets a pop-up in the game that says you are getting this offer that you were promised to get. Then he clicks collect and actually gets this chips incentives. And it's not as easy as it sounds to create this synchronized user experience. It's requiring big effort of R&D, as well as integrate your own data to the ad networks, like we did with marketing API with Facebook. There are some third-party tools that does that. Adjust and Appfire also doing that. And there are ways to connect directly with your own tools to this database. So either way, it requires R&D efforts to do that. And lastly, as I said, there are some measurement that you need to test and run and repeat testing and tweak it a little and retesting again and again until you find your method for success. So this was all of that. If you have any questions, we have a few minutes, and you can also shoot me an email or contact me directly on LinkedIn or on the chat of the venue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Omer. This was a great talk, and it's very interesting to listen to, like, the representative of a company developing and distributing a social casino game. Because, like, I'm personally I'm a part of the team also developing a social casino. Mm-hmm. That's why I would ask a quick question, if you mind. All right?
Of course.
Sure. So, as we know, the cost to acquire a user with a good paying potential for a social casino game is quite high.
Right.
So, is it the reason why you choose retargeting as one of the ways in your monetizing strategy?
So it does consider the fact that CPI increases in social casino, especially in I think in the gaming and upward in general. This is not specifically an alternative for user acquisition, but it's a way that we can re-engage with the users. And we paid a lot to get them, and the ones that are valuable valuable for us, we want to somehow keep them in the system. So this is a good reason to do retargeting.
Okay, thanks a lot. So guys, if you feel like asking more questions, we have his email, and he's also on Dublin Hub platform. So please do not hesitate to log in and drop him a message with your questions regarding retargeting. Thanks once again, Omer.
Thank you very much.
And goodbye.
Bye-bye.